Hey guys, welcome to my channel Hairliciously. Today I wanted to talk about the topic of, is a hair transplant painful? If you're watching my videos, chances are that you're also suffering from hair loss and have come to the conclusion that a hair transplant is going to be your best option. One of the questions that a lot of people have regarding hair transplants is the pain that is associated with it. After all, the scalp is a pretty sensitive area, and the thought of excising a strip of flesh or even extracting tiny little hair follicles from the back of the donor area can actually be a scary thought for a lot of people. And so I wanted to share with you guys my experience on what kind of pain that I felt from start to finish. And like I said, I can only speak from my own experience, and especially from an FUE point of view, because that's the type of hair transplant that I received. I'm guessing that an FUT would probably be a little bit more painful because you're pretty much cutting a strip of flesh from the back of your scalp and then stitching it together, as where a FUE procedure, you're pretty much extracting tiny little hair follicles from the back of your scalp. With that said, some people can tolerate pain more than others. So what I'm about to discuss is a very subjective answer, and this is solely based on my own experience. So please take it with a grain of salt. Before I get started, I wanted to show you guys my hair. I just got out of the shower a few minutes ago, and then I blow dried my hair. And it's getting quite long, as you guys can see, and just look how much coverage that I'm getting with my hair. Now you guys can see that I still do have a big forehead, but this hair is long enough where it can actually cover everything. So let me just show you the crown area. Oh, there's no receding or anything like that there. Here's the side. Here's the other side. I particularly like this kind of hairstyle because, it kind of covers, it covers the hairline, and you don't really notice any signs of recession or thinness or anything like that. And a lot of Asian guys have this kind of haircut, so it might suit better for Asians, but if you like growing your hair out, you can go ahead and try rocking the style. I'm going to be growing it out a little bit longer, probably about an inch. Probably end up getting a 2-block haircut. But as of now, everything's really growing in really nicely. Alright, so let's go back to the topic of pain that is associated with a hair transplant. So back in November of last year, I went to South Korea to get 1,700 grafts implanted into the frontal portion of my hairline. So as soon as I went in, the doctor had me change into one of those medical gowns. He had me lie down on my back on an inclined chair, and then he started injecting about 15 to 20 shots of lidocaine into the frontal portion of my hairline. From my experience, I think the injections are going to be the most painful part of a hair transplant. And to compare this type of pain, imagine what it feels like to have your tooth pulled and the pain of the needles entering into your gums. Except for I feel like the hair transplant probably hurt about 2 to 3 times more. I think I tolerate pain pretty well, and it's not to the point where you're gonna start freaking out or anything like that. It's just kind of like a numbing sensation, where it's kind of like like a sharp pain, and it kind of goes away after 30 seconds to a minute. So after he made all of the shots onto my hairline, he then proceeded to make tiny little slits onto my frontal hairline so that he can place the grafts once he extracts it from the donor area. So I know that some doctors actually extract the hair follicles from the back of the scalp before making slits onto the recipient zone. But I think the reason why my doctor did the slit first was because he pretty much counted exactly how many hair grafts that he was going to need, so that when he extracted them after making the slits, he didn't have to make any extras or less or anything like that, and he just made just the right enough number so that he can implant them properly and then not have to waste any grafts. When the doctor's making the slits into the frontal portion of my hairline, obviously at this time, the area is already numb, so you're not going to feel anything, but I can still hear internally the sounds that I was making. So imagine getting like an X-Acto knife and then getting a styrofoam cup or something and then stabbing it or making little puncture wounds into the cup. So it's kind of like that little crushing sound. Probably for like a good 2 to 3 minutes, I was counting exactly how many slits my doctor was making, so that I tried to see if he was going to lie to me or not in regards to how many grafts that I needed. But after about 2 to 3 minutes, I kind of lost track. I think the anesthetics was kind of getting to me. but I just completely lost track of how many slits that it was making. It took about an hour to an hour and a half to make the slits into the frontal portion of a hairline, and then he was finally done. So after that, he wrapped my head around with a band-aid, and then he said that I can go take lunch. So they gave me lunch. I probably spent about 30 minutes eating my food, and then I went back into the operating room to get my hair grafts extracted from the donor zone. So this time my doctor made me lie down on my stomach so that he can have access to the back portion of my scalp, which is my donor zone. And then once again, he began injecting lidocaine, about 15 to 20 injections into the back of my scalp. And for some reason, I think the back of my scalp hurt more than the frontal portion. There might be more nerves in the back of the scalp, I'm not sure, but for some reason in my experience, I felt like the pain in the back of the donor area was more painful than the front. So then once the doctor extracted all of the hair follicles from the back of the scalp, they put it into a saline solution where they divided it up into little petri dishes based on the number of grafts of hair, and then he started to implant them into the frontal portion of my hairline. After the procedure, I remember having a headache for a good 2 to 3 days. There's a little bit of swelling in the back portion, also the frontal portion. The doctor did prescribe me pain medication, but I don't think I took any because I felt like I didn't really need them. But after a few days, the swelling went down. So the scabs pretty much formed after about 2 weeks after my hair transplant, and then it fell off, I want to say about 3 to 4 weeks after my procedure. Never want to force the scabs to come off because, especially during the first 10 days, you want to make sure that you don't disrupt any grafts because the first 10 days are very crucial when it comes to making sure that the hair follicles are in place, because anything before the 10 days can make the hair follicles come out, and you don't want to do that because they're very expensive. Well, that's pretty much my experience with a hair transplant that I had in South Korea. Also, at the end of my procedure, they ended up giving me a shot in my ass just to make sure that I didn't have any infections. I don't think they do that here in the US, but for some reason in Korea, they love giving shots in the butt. So if you guys do end up getting it in Korea, make sure that you know that there's one last shot that's going to be straight to your butt. So in conclusion, I hope that you guys don't make the fear of whether or not a hair transplant is painful stop you from getting one, especially if you're a good candidate. And in another video, I'm going to be doing a video on what makes a person a good candidate for a hair transplant. Please do your research, use a surgeon that you really trust, one who is very skilled and experienced in hair transplantation, and this ultimately might be the key to a less painful hair transplant. So would I still recommend a hair transplant? Yes, absolutely. I feel that in my experience, the pain of hair loss is much worse. And for those who can tolerate a little bit of pain, this is going to be cakes. Don't be scared of not getting a hair transplant because of, you know, the fact that it's going to be a little painful. It's nothing more painful than getting an extraction of your tooth and getting an injection on your gums. So please don't be scared. Just go for it, do your research, and you'll be fine. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Feel free to subscribe, like this video, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.